Hello, everybody. This is Akshi Coelho, co-founder of the One Love Institute, and my guest today is Talib Fisher, the renowned speaker, therapist, and educator specialized in relational and trauma resolutions. He has dedicated his life's work in both Western and Eastern approaches to psychology, trauma healing, and human development. Right now, the world is experiencing a unique situation with the global lockdown, where more than 2 billion people are confined into their home and where personal fear, panic, and anxiety is running very high. Talib, you are known to offer retreats and seminars all over the world and to be passionate about sharing your experiences of integrating understandings from both the Eastern and Western approaches to developing human potential. Talib, it's great to be with you. Thank you for accepting my invitation and welcome to the One Love Institute.
Thank you so much, actually. It's a joy and privilege to be here and to be part of your platform that you're creating in the One Love Institute. I feel honored. Thank you so much, really.
It's a great honor to have you here. And as you know, we are living in a unique moment in history. Do you feel it is an opportunity for everybody to pause, reflect, and retreat? And what is the potential that you see in this unique moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. It's a huge opportunity, but we don't have much choice in this moment. I mean, some countries do. So we are, in a way, forced into the opportunity, which is a unique situation, and for many people, extremely challenging to confront everything that comes up. I look at the situation very personally as I'm participating in that with my family, with my son who's 3 years old, with massive changes in our work, and being with many people right now, going through many very challenging spaces, and really confronting much deeper issues inside, which are coming up also from having to stop and face themselves, which is very challenging. So yes, a huge opportunity, and not maybe some people having more challenges than others, not maybe having tools to deal with the opportunity. So they're forced to maybe do or connect with themselves in a way which they're not used to doing. And that's very challenging. Some other people are maybe more used to reflecting in themselves or questioning their lives or even questioning their identities or the roles they play in life. So maybe it's easier somehow because they have some tools. But for some, it's really quite a challenge, really quite a challenge. And I look at it a little bit in the sense of opportunity. I see it on two planes, let's say, one on a personal plane, like it's tragic, like if my son were to get sick, or I would get sick, or my wife would get sick, and or my father who's in a high risk situation would get sick, of course it would move into the dimension of tragedy. And then it becomes a wholly different reality, which many people are facing, of losing loved ones, or fear of losing loved ones. It's very real. And in another dimension or plane, I look at it as a huge opportunity, honestly feeling almost in a certain resignation with the track that the planet was running on before. Just seeing like the destruction and the unconsciousness and how we were as a species behaving on this planet with each other and also with the planet and nature. And somehow I see this almost like, as parents, sometimes we send our children to their room, to self-reflect. And I kind of see like the planet is sending us to our rooms right now to self-reflect. And I think that is a blessing and a huge opportunity, because we have an opportunity to really see how do we really want to live here together and on this planet. And that's precious, maybe a bigger gift than we even understand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And speaking a bit about the fear and the anxiety, many of us can be in a state of fear right now, as you mentioned, because of the threat that the COVID-19 represents. And now, on top of the normal level of anxiety that many people were already feeling, there is, on top of it, this fear of dying, this fear of losing someone, a loved one, this fear of the economical impact, the fear of losing the job, the fear of having to close the business, of not being able to sustain our family, of even the fear of losing our freedom. Can you tell us a bit what are the effects of fear on our bodies and on our minds, and what can we do to help us relax and regulate ourselves?
Yeah, such a huge subject, really, and something that we all can relate to right now, because whenever there's big change, there's fear. And I think that's a natural process of alertness in our system, which is a biological inbuilt intelligence to help us survive. It makes our system alert. It makes us focus. It makes us um, check out if there's really danger or not. I mean, that's how we've survived on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. So I think that system is a great friend, actually, to us. It's been maybe the most loyal friend that we have in our biology. It's constantly looking out for us and making sure that we're safe. And if we're not, it mobilizes an incredible energy to make sure that we survive. And that is a great gift. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. So, and at the same time, when the brain is doesn't hasn't been able to deal with the threat, where I call it an invisible threat, like this virus, because it's difficult to locate where it is. If the brain can locate it, it's easier because you either attack that object of threat, or you escape from it, or you play dead and hide from it, but you can mobilize against it. But when it's like this, it's difficult to locate exactly where it is. So that threat response stays on all the time. It becomes um, almost like a chronic state of alertness, and that's exhausting for our systems for long periods of time. We're not designed to be in a threat response for extended periods. It's like an intense response which gets resolved, and then we can release that energy and come back to normal again, to like safe human, like in contact with people, or people are safe. We feel like things are normal again. But we're in a situation right now, especially with the media and the not knowing, where that survival system is constantly on. It's like it almost hijacks our consciousness, and then therefore creates a tremendous amount of anxiety. So that's one system that I see that we're dealing with on a global scale as humans. Just that system being on all the time, and maybe not even aware of it totally. So not sure how to regulate that and how to deal to help that system calm down, which we definitely can do when we have the right tools. So that's one element. But then on a psychological level, I see that we're faced with our identity, our fear of losing our identity is who we are, is my story of my belief structures of my personality, of who I am in this world, and therefore what I've identified with, or my roles that I play as a father, as a therapist, as a man, as a friend, as somebody who, all my identities are being shaken right now. And I think many people are facing that fear of losing their identity. We're identified with our work, with our businesses, with how much money we make or how much money we don't make, with our social status. It's like very strong roles. And so in some way, the fear of losing who am I is also very strong right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And then
And
how to, and like you said, also, please.
no, no, please, Talib.
I was saying that what you were saying also in the beginning of the fear of death. I think that's um, something I think we're faced to really look at right now. What is my death? What is my relationship with how I've been living my life? Actually, have I really dreams, my longings? What what is essential for me, or have I just been postponing because of fear? And when death comes, or the fear of death, or let's say the reality that we are going to die, I'm going to die, this body is going to die, all of my identities are going to die with it. Then it's like, what am I doing here? Actually, death shakes the house, and that can be like, for someone who's used, like I said before, is used to inquiring into themselves, it can be even exciting. This moment is a great opportunity, a real situation. It's not just some theory in a workshop. It's like, no, it's right here. It's real situation. That's exciting because it's alive. But if you're not used to that, it can be terrifying because you're so identified with those roles and the body and you know, it can just be overwhelming. So then your question is essential. So, okay, how to deal with that, how to regulate ourselves, how to speak to the nervous system and the brain to calm itself so that we can take, the body can rest, that we don't have to be, we can be in a threatening situation, but we don't need to be taken over by fear. And that's very important. And that requires a capacity of, in some way, playing with the language of the brain, which is around focusing also, like shifting the focus. If I focus on the social media and all of the hype around the not knowing, my brain will be constantly engaged with threat. It will just be overwhelmed with images, and therefore the threat is very real. But even though I'm sitting right now in my room, actually in reality I'm very safe. I'm very safe here. But if I turn on CNN, all of a sudden my brain is perceiving I'm not safe, and then it mobilizes the whole system to deal with that visual images that the brain is taking in. But if I actually come back into my room and I focus on what is real, the here and now, and just allow that system, which is actually designed to check, am I safe, really? And just let it do its job for a moment. Like really scan the room and check reality, check the closet, check the bedroom, check around the house, check the people who are maybe close, my family, are they safe? And letting that mechanism just do a really proper scan of reality and wait for a moment to allow it to report back to me. It's a very efficient mechanism. It's extremely intelligent, and it's very persistent and thorough in its investigating capacities. And as I wait right now and just allow it to report back to me, it's very clear that it's safe here. And when I receive that information, my belly starts to relax, my breath shifts. I can actually feel the room, that it's still. I feel you, and I can feel that you're also safe, that you're not out to hurt me, and that you're actually a good friend of mine. And that touches me when I say that, because that connection is so important for me. And I can feel again my emotions. It's okay because I'm not in threat. Something relaxes. And this is what I call it, like self-regulation starts to happen. I can shift the focus, and the brain actually gets a check of reality.
So really, when we take some time for ourselves to check and observe what is happening inside, it's the process are simply allowing the body to do what it does naturally, right? And at this moment, I feel somehow that I'm really lucky, and the work that I have done until now and the things that I've been learning until now have been preparing me somehow in some way to a moment like that, where I can practice all the tools that I've been learning. And it's like all the trainings, all my inner work, all the process of looking for answers, that instinct that I have that there is something more, a greater truth. It's like I learn everything for a time like this. And as I said, I'm really grateful about that. But at the same time, I'm thinking sometimes of how people who don't have these tools can cope with a moment like this. So, what can we do to remember to come back to us and allow ourselves to feel and observe whatever is there? And maybe could you share what is your daily practice to come back to yourself when you feel stressed?
It's a great question, actually. I think um, we humans have some inbuilt intelligence in which is almost um, God given, you could say, or just natural to us, and which creates a self-regulating experience together. And that's really about sharing our story. It's simple as this: like, we're designed to tell stories together, and when we can tell stories about how we're feeling, and we can look somebody in the eyes, doesn't even matter if they're online or physically present, but if we can share about our vulnerability, our fear, and we can look the person in the eyes and we're listened to, and we can tell our story and how what's actually happening for us as it is in the truth of what's happening. And something starts to happen where we start self-regulating. We it's a very deep biological system inside us where we are designed to co-regulate together. And therefore, we always gathered around the fire in the night and we've told stories for centuries, that kind of just instinctive thing of telling stories together and being together and sharing hardships and celebration. It's so ingrained in ourselves as human. And I think that's the basis for dealing with stress on a bigger level, is being able to share on a true feeling, not like, oh, I should hold it all together and be strong. I mean, those are our protection structures, let's say, and sometimes we have to have that because it's just too much. But when we do have someone who's safe enough to share with, and we can share our more vulnerable self, that can be incredibly regulating and soothing and relaxing. And then if you have the luxury of meditation and more, let's say, internal practices like you're sharing, like you've been training yourself for many years, which is a great luxury in situations like this, like you say, to have that. But even when you don't have that, your body knows how to do it. I mean, one thing is the shifting the focus, like we were talking about, but really sharing with somebody that you feel safe with can be very healing. Also, it's very therapeutic, even, to do that. But it's very ingrained in our nature as humans.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you practice jujitsu as well. And myself, when I
Yes.
feel stressed, in the best of my abilities, I tend to go for a run, to do yoga, to do some breath work, to have a cold shower, to meditate. But for other people, when they feel stressed, they might go into compensation or destructive behavior as drinking or drugs, and maybe not the best way to cope with the situation. So, how can people be more aware of that, and how they can take a different choice that is not so destructive?
So, like you said, one thing is moving the physical body. Like if you have like gardening, for example, such a great one. If you have a garden, like getting your. I always say, like, when I'm anxious, I do need to move my hands and my feet. If I move my hands and my feet, the rest of the body follows. Sometimes for me, like jiu-jitsu, I train Brazilian jiu-jitsu because it gauges my hands and my feet. You know, when we train, the whole body then is present, engaged, and that's like tremendous resource for me. It also helps just with stress and feeling aggression and processing very strong emotions also. But if you don't have those type of practices, um, being in the garden, you know, or cleaning the house, for example. Like sometimes I feeling really stressed or really in my mind, and I'll stop everything and I'll sweep the whole house. You know, like I literally will take the broom and put on some music and sweep the house, or clean the kitchen like super thorough. And it's incredible, just like moving my hands and feet by doing something like cleaning the house is so it releases like a big chunk of stress. And then it's easier to do a little bit of deeper work, like internal work with anxiety, for example, because I look at anxiety as like an alarm clock or like a light tower beacon, you know, like in the ocean where the lights, when it's foggy and you can't see, and but you see the light towers there, and then the boat can navigate. I see anxiety a bit like that, where it's actually a deeper part of us which is trying to communicate. It's trying to express something. It's trying to actually get our attention. Many times we fight with the anxiety, or we try to numb it, like you say, with like negative behaviors like drinking or drugs, or acting out in destructive ways. Those are just simply attempts to try to regulate and get rid of that anxiety. It's like we're fighting against it, and therefore it doesn't go away. It just keeps coming back. And that's because there's a deeper layer, there's a deeper, I call it like an unspoken voice inside us, which is trying to get our attention. It's trying to come into the consciousness so that we can address it and validate it. And it will keep coming until we say, okay, what is my anxiety actually trying to say? What is it trying to communicate with me? And many times when you do that type of inner inquiry, you find like an unmet need, or a part of you that um, hasn't been really validated. You know, it's like in the relationship, for example. Many times, like right now, it's a huge situation. Many people having very challenging problems in their relationships, for example, because they're at home, they don't have their normal outlets and resources, and everything that's going on in the relationship is just coming up to the surface. Like things that they swept under the carpet for years is like now it's just accumulating to an extent where they just have to deal with it. And many people are separating even if when they get out of here, you know, because it's like they're not able to deal with it because it's just so much stuff there, and it's such an anxiety. And so, for example, when you inquire what is the unmet need in anxiety, for many people, it's space. It's like having boundaries. Like, because right now there's no space. You can't go out of your house. You can't get space from your partner. You can't get space from your kids. You're confined. The need for freedom is so strong. And as well as the need for intimacy and real connection and closeness and safety and reassurance. These are very strong needs in us, but also the need for freedom is just as powerful. And when we like those needs are not available for whatever reason, that anxiety is just it just becomes so strong because it's like that part inside us is screaming that uh, it's not getting addressed. It's not being heard. It's not being validated. And when we can go underneath our anxiety and we can validate what is the need underneath it, and we can share it with someone that we love, we can validate it and give it a voice, it's incredible how the anxiety immediately discharges.
Mm.
But in
Yeah,
order to do that, Uh,
I was going to say, like, it is a beautiful moment for people because they spend time with their partners, they spend time with their family, and this is a time for them to get closer to each other and to get to know each other better. But it is also a challenging sometimes where they can feel they have no space, they have no uh, the lack of freedom, as you said. And I feel like this moment is also really strongly charged emotionally. We can almost feel it in the air. There is a frustration, there is this fear, this collective frustration and fear. And I was wondering, what can we do when we are in the middle of a conflict? Is there a magic formula? Is there a map that we can follow to help us come back from a state of anger, rage, or blaming to a space of more love, connection, and understanding?
yeah, such a relevant question right now, actually, because um, I'm dealing with that. It's like I even someone who I have a lot of tools and experience, and I have being confined in my house with my family, who I love dearly, but that loss of freedom and of all of my identities, and it's like so strong. What I've been talking about, I've been dealing with myself. It's like seeing all I can talk about it because I can see it so much in myself. And how my wife and I, who we work with this together, we have just been, we're laughing some days because we're just like, wow, how intense. We're having to use our tools daily. And our kid who's not in school and he's all over the place and we're not having boundaries like normal. And it's like, whoa. And we're saying, wow, imagine the guys with 3 kids in a small apartment, both parents working. God bless, It's like really, I mean, I'm humbled to say because I'm in a luxurious situation. I'm compared to some people who are really squeezed right now. So your question is so relevant for so many of us, and how to deal with that, and how do I deal with that? And I think one thing that I'm recognizing, like when I'm in my threat response, when I'm really activated, I see my partner as an enemy, which is really a bizarre experience because I love her more than anybody else on this planet. She's my best friend, my own most safe person that I can talk to unfiltered, really. And I have such a deep respect for her. But when I'm activated, it's almost like a part of my brain takes over that sees her as a threat. And when I communicate with her from that part of me, I do things which I'm not proud of. I behave in ways which it's like I wake up later. It's like being in a trance, and I wake up later. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I said that, or I behaved like that, or I really feel so, and I can repair it afterwards, which is hugely important. But in the moment, it's almost like I'm hijacked. And that's what I call like the threat response. When I'm in the threat response, there's no communication. The only thing I can do is stop and bite my tongue and leave the room. If I have enough awareness, I can just stop talking and leave and come back later. And even I say to her, you know what, right now, I don't have the space to talk, but I'll come back later. If I can get that much out of my mouth, we're good. And then I leave and I need to do my own work. I need to go to the garden. I need to train jujitsu. I need to do my own resources to scan the room, check reality, bring my nervous system back to a regulated state. And then I can come back to the relationship and I can say, okay, now I can talk with you. Now I have space to listen to you also. What is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you wanted to share? Or now I can share with you actually what I'm feeling because now I can feel myself underneath my anxiety. in actually what I need. And what I really need is like an hour space just by myself in the morning. Could you take our son? And then I can exchange and give you an hour too. Or I can communicate all of a sudden. But so that is essential, because otherwise I'm just communicating from a threat response in myself, and in what I call the shadow of relating, the shadow aspects, like all of the repressed darkness inside just comes out like a catharsis in that moment, and it can be extremely destructive if we're not aware of it. And I think many people are facing that right now, like the shadow sides of themselves that they never really learned how to deal with hatred or raw emotion, or it's like revenge. It's like the parts of us which are, when they get hurt, and they act out viciously. We might not know how to deal with those parts of ourselves, so we repress them. But when we get activated in our threat response, it's almost that trance has no more filter. It just lets it all come out. It all of a sudden has permission to rip. And that can be extremely destructive. So in some way, to really deal with conflict, we need to know ourselves first. We need to know about our beast. We need to know how to regulate ourselves. We need to know how to repair, because we're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. It's like, but I know how to repair, and I can take responsibility after I make a mistake, and I can show up as a man and say, I'm sorry I hurt you. And I see right now that I was completely intoxicated, and but now I'm back, and I'm so sorry, and take responsibility for my actions, and I can repair with the people I love with, and I can learn from that. I can be humble enough to see that, wow, I made a mistake. I lost myself in that moment, but I can come back and I can own that, and I can even build more trust because I take responsibility for it. So it's a huge opportunity to practice that right now. We're almost forced to practice that, because otherwise we're going to lose our relationships, which we really love the people in our lives. But when we're so activated in our threat response, we can easily numb the love and just go in the trance of, this person is a threat to me, and therefore I will need to destroy this person, or I need to leave this person. Another thing is, like, either I fight with my partner, but also it's like how many times I plan my escape. How do I get out of this marriage? How do I get out of being a father? It's like my system organizes, okay, how do I escape from here? That's the threat response.
Yeah, it's very inspiring, and I can totally see myself in what you're doing. And it's so important to really remember to feel what we are feeling and not react from that space of anger that we are feeling at the moment, and remember also the love that we have for this person. And when we come back to this love, we can see things in a different perspective, and we are able also to let go, of our truth, or our need to be right, or our blaming. And I think it takes a willingness also, and a courage to stop at this moment and observe ourselves and not blame the other in that situation. And it takes a lot of self-observation also, which where meditation is a great tool. And I feel in our society right now, it's like we are all the time distracted from ourselves. It's like the media is constantly or is created to distract ourselves from ourselves. And it's really easy right now to lose ourselves into the mainstream, the stream of information that we have about the whole situation, that we have about the coronavirus. And it's really easy right now to distract ourselves from what we are actually feeling. Do you have any tip to give to people to come back to themselves when they feel this anger, this rage, this blaming, or when they feel that they are being distracted, they are obsessed into looking into the mainstream informations.
I think I don't know what I can say to people because I myself am struggling in those things. It's like we have nowhere else to go, and then I'm watching Netflix, I'm doing our things, and then I come to a certain point where I feel like drained from that, and then I come back to my practice again. Like then I find there's a certain moment where okay, I get saturated. My brain just I can't stand to look at the screen anymore, or it's like enough. And then I come back to the disciplines, which I know, which is usually moving my body in the morning, some sort of meditation in the morning, where I sit and watch my breath, or just be mindfulness and practice focusing inside myself. And then I've practiced that for years, so my body remembers quickly, and then it's easier for me to do that. But when you haven't done that work, you need some help. We need a coach, a therapist, to train a bit. It's too we don't we it's not a quick fix. This is the challenge I think we face today. It's like the social media, the technology, it's training our brain for quick fixes, instantaneous gratification, the video games, and the brain is being wired to that. And ultimately, that's creating a lot of dissatisfaction and meaninglessness in our system. This is something that we face on a huge scale. Um, but the reality is, you have to come to enough suffering. I believe that. And unfortunately, it's like that, where I know that for myself, that I have to suffer enough where I can't stand it anymore. And then I can mobilize something else. And each one has its own threshold of how much they need to suffer before they're willing to say, okay, I need some help. I need help. And I do need help. And I'm strong, so I can like bear it for a long time. But there's a certain moment where I can't stand what I feel anymore. And then I'm willing to I put my pride aside and reach out for a friend or someone I respect, or get a referral from someone and say, okay, I need some tools now, and I need to dedicate to work with myself. And I think we're seeing right now on the planet, either we take on that challenge of self-responsibility and to take care of ourselves, or um, uh, we're gonna sink into another. We're gonna lose something. I can really see it. I can watch it in myself. I can see that in myself. There's almost like, this might sound very intense to say, but there's almost a very strong desire in us for death. And it's almost like there's two strong desires in our system. One is the desire for death, and one is the desire to really live and follow our longings and our dreams and our passion. But right now, this is why before this whole thing happened, I was a little bit like in resignation, honestly, because I was seeing the desire for death so intensely in our collective. The and you can see that with the way that we eat, the amount of television we watch, or the things that don't make us feel bad, what we put in our mouth, and our desire for the things that make us feel bad. This is a death desire. It's literally killing us, and we feel pleasure with it. Look at that for a moment. It's such a strong pull, and that creates suffering, which is almost comfortable. And we need to understand that pull to death. And there's a certain moment where the pull for life, it's almost like a war inside us, a battle between a death wish and a life wish. And that creates a lot of anxiety actually in our system because it's almost like both are on at the same time. I want to live my passion and take risks to share myself in the world and live my dreams, but I'm afraid to fail. And it's like the other side pulls me down. And those strong forces are so present right now. You can just look into politics. I'm from the United States. I watch my brothers and sisters in the United States and just looking, oh my God, it's like there's such a strong death wish. There's so much potential with so much, money and resources to do good for the world, to help people actually. But the shadow is just intoxicating everything and just taking towards the death route. And I think that's something we all have to take responsibility individually with, or otherwise we go for the death route, which has a reality of its own.
Yeah, I can really see there is a tremendous potential in the moment that we are living right now. And I believe that when we are living in the space of the art and embrace every aspect of our human experience, we can experience space of great creativity also. We can see that possibilities that we didn't see before, and we are seeing enormous creativity right now. Many people are offering classes online and gathering together. There are beautiful movements happening that are being creating to support each other. So do you think we will come out of this moment actually learning something from this and change our way of living and relating to each other? Is that a possibility that you see?
I think that's happening. I see that what you're talking about happening on a huge scale. Most of the people I relate with daily are involved with that type of vision that you're talking about. I think that I think there's a dividing. I really see it like two paths, and right now we're just accelerating the paths. And one path, which I was talking about, is going towards like destruction and death, wish for death, and another is going for the wish to fly, to live, to be, to celebrate life, to feel the blessing of what it is to be alive and connect with people, and coming out of that, out of a certain sense of numbness and actually being able to feel again. And when they're walking in the garden, actually feeling that life is, in the little things. It's in the contact with a tree, a flower, with a friend, with a cup of tea. It's life is happening. Life is in the little things of life. It's not in our great successes out there. It's, if we can enjoy the journey, it can be wonderful. But life is in the little things, and that type of sensitivity is awakening, where we really have an opportunity shifting our whole relation with material, with relationships, with our spirituality aspects of ourself, to really engage life on multiple dimensions that we are capable of as humans. And that's hugely exciting. I mean, that's thrilling for me. That wakes me up every day, honestly. And of course, I face the death call inside me. I struggle with that. But the more I become awake in my sensitivity, the more I'm enchanted with the light and the challenge of the light. I mean, the real challenge for me is in the light, because then I have to face myself and my fear to let myself shine and to be, as big, and to allow my brothers and sisters to be as big as they are. And that's exciting. That turns me on.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think there's a huge potential in that
yeah, and
happening.
I think we need to remember ourselves also to make the change within us and change the thing that we can actually control. What I can see is that people can tend to go into that savior mentality also, or waiting that someone is going to save us from that situation. But what I feel is really that the change comes from within, from the things that we control. And you're speaking about the vegetable garden, and it's something that I've been doing, a bit of I am one of the lucky one who have a bit of earth, and I'm creating this vegetable garden also, and that nourishes me. And I think that that's a change that needs to come also, like the way that we are feeding ourselves, and the way that we are also getting the food that we need, like not coming from countries far away, but from our local garden. That's a big shift that needs to happen, I think. And about human contact, like we are living in a time of social distancing, and we know that we need human contact, human touch. It's in our biology. It's very important for us. It increases our oxytocin levels, and so it increases our happiness. I'm wondering, what do you think will be or are the effects of these social distancings on our body and on our health, and how much it is hurting us right now, and what can we do to stay connected in a time like this?
Yeah, good question. I mean, we are by nature, like you said, we are designed to co-regulate and bond together. It's probably the primary instinctive movement in our, besides surviving, is bonding together. So, um, uh, but actually, what I see happening is more contact than ever. Actually, what I see is people actually having time to call friends and call family and actually be available for contact more than ever. I think we were so busy. Um, I was so busy in my own ambitions and like, just driving around the, flying around the planet, doing workshops. I wasn't available at all. I mean, only for people who were in front of me in that moment. But it's like we're actually more available right now to be real with each other and in real contact than ever before. And that's a bit like, it's almost surreal because we're isolated, but actually we're more available for each other than ever. And it's kind of like a koan somehow, it's like what we actually needed in order to really create connection together and actually to revisit our friendships and really put energy into what's essential, which is our connections with each other. At the end of life, when you're dying, you're not going to really look and say, "Oh, I wish I would have made another $1 million." You're going to look and see where are your kids next to you? Did you really love? Are the people that you love here with you, holding your hand? I mean, that's what's going to matter at the end of it all, And somehow, right now, we're given a gift of being forced to stop and actually come back to what's essential, which is connecting with you right now, my friend there in Portugal, and having time together like we do now. I mean, how long? I mean, we work together also, so how? But it's like how often do we sit down for an hour and really, it's like we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can really reflect on that, like this is a time for me to reflect on my frenetic rhythm. Also, I shared that already, that this mentality of achieving what I'm going to do next is never enough. I need to achieve more and more. And now it's time for me to really reflect on that and see if it was really a healthy lifestyle that I was having, or what can I do different. And I really feel this connection with you right now that nourishes me. um, and do you feel like this kind of connection that we are having online can replace the connection that we have of the human touch somehow?
No,
Hmm.
I don't think. I think, of course, we have to be real about like we need touch. We are designed. Some of us are more comfortable with touch than others, but you know, as a young child, even I mean, even the way that we are designed, like a young child can't regulate himself without touch, for example. Until a certain age, that part of the nervous system which calms us down isn't developed yet. So we rely like on our mother, our father, or our caretaker to calm us by touch, literally. And so it's like the most primal need is actually touch, not just a sexual touch. That's a different type of touch. That's also a need, but a soothing touch of contact, which actually transmits to our muscles in our body that we're loved. It's like you can tell me I love you, and a part of me receives that. But if you really hold my hand and you would give me a hug and you would make contact with me, I would receive that love that you feel on a cellular level. It's so much more impactful to have transmission through touch. It communicates on it's such a deep, deep level. So I think it's the limitation of distance that we have right now. But I was just practicing this morning. Actually, I have some friends that are very far away from me, and I haven't had time to connect with them. And this might sound very strange for the logical part of our brain, but I was just sitting there and even closing my eyes, just feeling the connection that I had, especially with one dear friend of mine. And I was just seeing his smile and his eyes and the way he looks at me. And it was almost like I could breathe the connection. And it was almost like being together, It was like my body is almost like one part of me doesn't know the difference. The connection was so present and so nourishing. I myself was surprised how powerful it was. And I think that touches something. It's like our capacity inside ourselves when we can open our mind and develop our sensitivity is really a connectedness beyond time and space. And that's a bit out there. I understand that. But actually, when you feel that capacity, which I know you have that actually, it's incredibly touching to experience that. That what we can actually connect, how we can connect with each other when we are physically apart, and that we actually can exchange a tremendous amount of information and connection and love just by the relational fields that we have, even when we're physically distant from each other. And that's exciting. That makes me just see, wow, we have so much inside ourselves that we were never taught in school. Like, these things we were never taught, like in our education. It's like we were never really given a manual to how this incredible intelligence that we have in our body, our mind, our nervous system, actually what it's actually capable of doing in the dimension of contact. So of course we miss the physical touch, but there's so many other dimensions that I feel that this is an opportunity to develop that type of sensitivity, which we have already, but we're able to reconnect to it because our senses we're less out there and less distracted. Of course, that's uncomfortable and challenging and confronting, but it also is an opportunity to develop tremendous refined sensitivity again, which is our birthright. We all had that. My son has it. I watched my son as a 3-year-old. He walks through the garden completely connected with everything, completely present to every sound that happens, every movement in the nature. He has no separation. Now that we all have it. And I think this is a moment where we can reconnect that sensitivity. Of course, which got numbed over and distracted from, but that gives me hope. That gives me that would be a blessing.
Yes. Yes. And coming back to relationships, there is this beauty of connection. And I see that people struggle also, in these dynamics of relationships to place their limits, their boundaries. They are kind of afraid of conflict in a way. And I remember you saying me once that we should have more conflict, that conflict is something that can be a great opportunity for growth and deeper connection. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, because I think like my experience is that through real contact of conflict, it makes us to be real. Like there's a certain fear of conflict. So I understand also, I'm also afraid of conflict. But I know that if I go through that fear and face the uncomfort, that I'm going to meet you on a much more authentic level. And I'm going to have to take off a certain mask that I wear of being the good one or the spiritual guy or the therapist guy, or because the conflict makes me human. It doesn't, it's a no bullshit space. And it makes me vulnerable to meet you in that. And therefore, it at the same time opens a tremendous capacity for real contact, because my personality is somehow uh, is shaken, and I can, and of course we need to know how to do that well. We need tools for that, because if I just go with conflict of trying to um, assert my position of being right, that type of conflict is not going to create more connection. That's not the conflict that I mean. The conflict is to show up and say our truth of how we're feeling, and being vulnerable in what we feel, even when it's uncomfortable, or the other person might not like to hear that, and it might trigger things inside them. But ultimately, that territory of the discomfort will create real connection and respect between us. And in order to do that, we need to know we need to know a bit of ourselves. We need some elements like self-responsibility, in knowing what our vulnerability is behind our protection mechanisms, which would rather just fight and not really show you what I feel behind my aggression, or underneath my depression or my moodiness or my withdrawal from you. Underneath that, I feel very vulnerable, actually. I feel very insecure, maybe. I feel like I have to put on a persona of knowing, actually, when I don't know at all. Actually, I'm just feeling super lost and insecure right now. But I have to pretend like I'm holding this thing, and I have to know some, especially leaders. Leaders, they put in a position, like I know because I am in a position of leading, and then it's like this persona of leading. All of a sudden, I can't be vulnerable because I have to lead, and then I get in some rigidity in myself, which I'm not myself anymore. And if I just stay in that and I don't actually go and meet you and what's underneath, I can't lead people because it's not sustainable. And I think conflict gives us an opportunity to really meet each other beyond our masks and our identities and our roles, and really meet each other. I know the moments where you and I've had like check-ins, really like deep friendship talks, of really conflicting different tensions between us, and how much more love I felt with you. I know that it works. I have the experience with you and many people in my life. My woman also, she challenges me regularly. And it's difficult to be challenged and to go for that conflict. But in especially the intimate relationship, like with my partner, she's a strong woman. Thank God, she's a very powerful woman, and she also challenges me. I wouldn't probably wouldn't be with her if she didn't. And but at the same time, she challenges me, and because she can see my unconsciousness more than anybody, and she calls me on it also. She's very respectful, but she calls me on it. And then there's a conflict there. I have to face myself, and I don't like to face myself all the time. It's hard. But when I do it, it's like, oh, I can just relax. I don't have to like hide to her of being some, idealized self as a man. I could just be. Wow, it's so relieving, actually. And that conflict it's like it kind of breaks down those protection layers where I can just be myself. I don't have to be what I should be. I can just be me. That's hugely relaxing.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for remembering this great key that is vulnerability, that many of us can consider vulnerability as a weakness, but actually it takes great strength, willingness, and courage to go into that place. And is there our authentic self can really be expressed, and we can really build strong and truthful relationship from that place. I totally agree with you. Thank you. Is there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers, Talib?
No, I feel very grateful in this moment from our conversation. I feel very nourished inside, and for you who are still listening to us today, thank you so much for your time. And I feel like um, it touches me. It's like for those of you guys who are still listening, and if something touches you from our conversation, and that you could bring that into your life and your family, and it touches me. It's like, that would be one that would be beautiful, because I really feel that we all have that potential. And when we're touched like that, I think love is the most powerful force there is. And I've just seen miracles, literally miracles, happen inside myself and with people when there's love. And that's probably one of the most scientifically explored powers in the world is love. I read something from Albert Einstein the other day. He wrote a letter to his daughter. I don't know if you ever read that. It just broke my heart open to listen to him. Incredible scientist, incredible man in intelligence, to articulate so deeply the the power of love, and to really look at it from a scientific aspect also, and to see it as a tangible force inside us, which is incredibly powerful and can do incredible things on this planet. And each one of us have our own source to that. That is cool. That is like, so if I could say anything to all of it's just like, you have everything you need. It's inside you. And Yahoo.
Thank you, Talib. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for sharing your love with all of us. And I really fear right now, this kind of conversation is not something that we hear on mainstream media. And I feel it's very important to make this kind of helpful information available to help people to cope with the present situation. So thank you so much for your contribution. I feel it has a very tremendous potential to empower and to help people, and it's all make a big difference in a time like this. Thank you, brother. Thank you for once again being yourself, share your love. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. I'm really nourished by this conversation, by this connection, and I wish you all the best.
Oh, brother, thank you too, and for everything that you're doing and creating the space also, and for all of your viewers, much love. Thank you so much, actually.
So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for joining us today with Talib Fisher. You can find more videos and content on our YouTube channel and website, and we'll be inviting more inspiring people in the future. So make sure you subscribe to our channel and receive a notification every time that we publish a new video. Much love to you all. Much love, Talib. Take care and see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.